Oh no, camera not working. Awesome. Oh, maybe. Sorry, Angie. I'm
Oh,
clearly in the middle of it today.
no, you're fine.
Hey, there I am.
Awesome. Hi.
Just a reminder, there's no like waiting room for the webinar. It just people just come straight in.
Okay, perfect. No worries. I'm gonna put some before I put this up here, I'm gonna put some links in the chat. Oh, they probably can't see them until they're all in though, huh? I'll just cut and paste them.
All right.
I got stuck in Juneau. There was no flights out yesterday, so I
Oh
am.
no. How bad's the weather out there?
It's actually not bad. All their crazy snow has melted. However, the fog just dropped in and no planes could get in. And obviously, if they can't get in, we can't get out.
Yeah, goodness. I know they got all that crazy snow and then they got like a
Yep.
ton of rain right after and like they were like evacuating people and
Yeah, and it's like green grass. There's big piles of snow everywhere, but yeah,
goodness.
interesting this weather we've had all over the state.
It has been interesting. The last couple winters have just been something else.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say.
Did you have a good, I don't think we have anybody in. Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah, yeah, it was really good. My daughter came home from college, and so yeah, it
Awesome.
was good. How about
Very cool.
you?
I did. I was in Hawaii soaking up the sun,
Oh,
so
that's right. I was in
it was
Hawaii at the same
great.
time. We did some for like 4 or 5 days, but it was great.
Oh, it was amazing. And the weather was perfect the whole time we were there, and it was so relaxing.
Kids loved it.
They did. It was great. All right, I think I got the chat activated, so anyone that comes in, and let's see, we'll give it just a couple minutes after, and
Yeah.
then get started. We will get started just in a couple more minutes. Thank you all for joining us so far. I just want to give it a couple minutes for people to get back in the Monday groove and join us. So we'll start probably just maybe a minute or two after the hour. All right, while we're waiting, we can just go ahead and start some introduction a little bit. My name is Brandy. I am the case manager and a licensed clinical social worker here at the Cohen Clinic in Alaska. We are a partner organization with Alaska Behavioral Health. Here, particularly, we're the military division, so we serve on an outpatient basis. We serve military families, active duty, veterans, anyone that's been impacted by the duty of a service member. So if you or anyone you know, might need some services, we're here. We also have our nationwide network that has the same programs in about 20 different states. So if that is something that you need help with, you are more than welcome to reach out. Everyone will have my email or should already have my email through the registration here. If you're local but not military affiliated, that's okay too. We can hook you up with Alaska Behavioral Health and get you all set up if you need some help or some support. And I will go ahead and field this over to Angie. She's our amazing presenter today and bringing us some wellness in the new year.
Thanks, Brandy. Let's see. I'm going to share my PowerPoint here. So today we are set to talk about kind of something we all talk about at the beginning of every new year. But I want to come at this a little differently. So my name is Angie, and I am a postdoctoral intern here at the Cohen Clinic. I'm from Alaska, born and raised in Alaska, and left the state after high school and went to Seattle, where I did my undergraduate studies there. Graduated from the University of Washington, came back to Alaska, and I was a police officer for 22 years before retiring in 2023. And to finish my PhD in clinical psychology. So I graduated last year with my PhD, and I was lucky enough to get Cohen to take me on as not only a pre-doctoral intern, but now a postdoctoral intern. So working through that and been just learning a ton at the Cohen Clinic, and been here about almost 2 years. So today I want to talk about goals, values, and missions for the new year, but want to go at it a little bit differently, and probably won't take the whole hour, especially with these kind of one-sided Zooms. It's kind of hard when we don't have the ability to discuss, but I hope you guys can take back some ideas for either yourself, your clients, your coworkers, friends, and family to kind of look at, I even hate to say the word New Year's resolutions, but look at kind of where you'd like to kind of point your direction this next year, and look at goals in a little bit different way. So I'm going to share. Oops, I started my PowerPoint without sharing. Excuse me. We're always adapting. I got stuck in Juneau yesterday. I was supposed to come home yesterday, and I got stuck here because no flights came in or out. So I'm operating from my home office here. I come to Juneau a bit to do some advocating for nonprofits that I'm involved in, and we're starting the session this week. So thought I could get out last night, but here I am, hoping maybe tonight I'll get back home. Let's see. So hopefully, Brandy, can you just give me a heads up if you can see my PowerPoint here, or a thumbs up?
Yeah, I can. Yep, perfect.
Okay, awesome. So I kind of, I do this with a lot of my clients when they're starting an outpatient episode of care with me, particularly if they come into therapy, kind of not knowing what they want to work on, but knowing that they're struggling with managing their lives. And so often in the first 3 appointments, we'll do the biopsychosocial assessment, and then those next 2 appointments we reserve kind of for goal setting. And a lot of times people have a hard time putting their goals in words. And so a lot of times I do the same process with them. So I'm going to be just presenting to you what I do with my clients when we're trying to establish goals. So I have a quick slide in here about goals, but really I'm not going to focus on goals for the majority of this talk, because often we hear about goals, we hear about goal setting. Oops, how did I go to that? And often we set goals and then we feel kind of crappy when we don't meet our goals, even if they're short-term goals. Today I'm going to wake up, I'm going to do my exercises, and then halfway through the day gets out of my control with things that pop up, and then I feel kind of bummed and low and have some negative thinking about my goals. So goals are great. We often hear short-term, midterm, long-term goals. Maybe short-term goals are for the day or for the week. Midterm is kind of bridging the gap to where are we going long-term. They can provide direction, focus, all these things I have here, motivation, inspiration, confidence that I'm moving towards something, being accountable to myself, measuring progress. But the big one I'm going to talk about today is kind of purpose and meaning, and um, and how we can be intentional in goals setting and goals, but trying to figure out really what am I getting out of this goal? What is the purpose and meaning of this goal? And so this is really the last time in this presentation or sometimes with my clients that I talk about goals, unless we're writing TrueMate goals, because really I'd rather have them looking at what in your life is going right now. What is purpose? What does mission mean to you? And how can you develop really a more of a mission statement for your life? And this mission statement can change, but right now, today, what is generally the direction that you want your life to be going? So, okay. So I like to start with values. Again, we hear this term a lot, but what does this really mean? So values, principles, beliefs, ideals, these are things usually that develop in us within the first 7 years of life without us even knowing. Those first 7 years of life, when we're watching the people around us, the adults navigating this world in kind of a unconscious state when we're little, and we're seeing like, how do these adults like manage this world? What are the rules at dinner? What are the rules to society? What are the rules when I'm in the store or at school or with this adult or that adult? And usually a lot of those unconscious ideas kind of are sustained in those values over our life. And so these values, I'm not saying they don't change over our lives, but a lot of times they come from our family of origin. And so these values can guide our behaviors, our thinking, and our emotions. And as we know, those things can cause us anxiety and low mood and problems when particularly we see what we but when it comes about in cognitive dissonance. And it's a term that we throw around a lot, but what does that really mean? And it's that uncomfortable state when our values are conflicting either with each other or with what we're doing. So my value is to remain healthy. Let's say, like, just give you a personal example. My mom was a PE teacher when I was growing up, kind of a hippie. I was one of those kids that wasn't allowed to have mayonnaise on my sandwich and no, ho-hos in my lunch, or I was that kid who never got sugar cereal and things like that. And my mom was very, very thoughtful of health and being health conscious. And so then as I got older, went to college, I get to make these decisions for myself on what to eat, and whether or not I work out or not. I, often can feel that rub, right? The rub between the values of being healthy and now, I'm in college and I'm going out to eat and I'm, doing things that are maybe more unhealthy. And so those values conflict, and that we can often recognize it because it comes up in these symptoms: psychological discomfort, anxiety, guilt, hopefully not shame, but sometimes shame, right? And the difference between guilt and shame is guilt, I did something that doesn't align with my values. Shame is I'm a bad person. And so that's where, we want to find that, okay, I don't need to have shame over this. This is a time in my life that I'm learning to be an adult. I'm learning to make decisions for myself. And I do hold these values as important to me. And so I can change some of my behaviors to kind of make me get rid of this guilt, this anxiety, this shame. So, as an adult, I had to find where's that sweet spot where I can still be maintaining being healthy, but I also don't have to necessarily, be so rigid in my values that I don't enjoy my life. So thinking about this rub, when you're thinking about creating your mission, your mission statement, or those long-term goals. So when we're doing this, oftentimes we have to ask ourselves and really look at our thinking, because our thinking, as we all know, kind of as you know, therapists or people who have maybe experienced some CBT training, things like that, we know how that that thinking can affect our emotions, can affect our behaviors, and all vice versa, and it's all connected. So when we're thinking about our values, we want to kind of think about our behaviors, our thinking, our values, and are we rigid? Are we doing that dichotomous thinking, that black or white? If I'm eating out one time, I'm a bad person, right? That's kind of that dichotomous thinking, that all or nothing. If I'm not the best, then I'm a worse, I'm a failure, right? If I make a mistake, I'm a failure. And if we notice ourselves kind of thinking along those terms, pressing ourselves and challenging ourselves to move towards more of that dialectic thinking. And dialectic thinking is kind of like, this is difficult and I can also handle it. Two things can be true and maybe not totally aligned. I'm frustrated with my husband and not but and I love him. Like I can, both of those things can be true. And so having more of that balanced thinking, that flexible thinking, I always like to think we think about the weather, when a tree is bending in the wind, it's much less likely to break. If we have this very rigid thinking, then it can break down in emotional overwhelm, or even stagnation, being stuck in that like over analytic thinking. And so just remembering, as you're thinking about your wellness, your goals, your mission, is that two things can be true and opposite. So it can be true that you have a value to remain healthy, but we don't have to be so rigid that our life, again, is uncomfortable, so rigid that it interferes with relationships or work and things like that. So this is the type of thinking, just setting the stage for these exercises as we figure out kind of what are our values. So that's where I like to start, is what are our values to begin with. So we even know, a lot of times we think we know what our values are, but we're not maybe even are able to articulate them or put them into words. But it's like, we know it when we see it, that this doesn't line with our values. So I like to use this. Maybe many of you have seen this, and I'll quickly put this in the chat. I have a link here. You guys can do it on your own. It's 51 card sort here. Zoom and put this in the chat. Come on, Zoom. Where are you? And so this is a quick exercise to figure out what your top 5 values are. So I typically will assign this to clients, or we'll do it in session to just come up with, first of all, what are those top 5. So it looks like this. I just screenshotted it from the website, but you'll go keep pile, discard pile, and it'll ask you 4 or 5 times kind of to come up with your top 5 values. So I think that's the first step in figuring out, what is your mission? What is your goal? What does your wellness kind of look like right now, so that you can kind of aim your direction or aim your ship in the right heading. So the next step after finding values, typically I will do a full wellness assessment, either with myself or with a client, family member that comes, and we're trying to kind of sort this out. What are we working on this year or this next 6 months? And I really like this wellness assessment from, I think it's the Marshall. I'm going to just stick it in the chat as well. I found it online several years ago, and I really like it because it has 8 dimensions of wellness. And I'm just going to drop it in the chat here. And I'm going to go back to the screen. Oh, sorry, Taylor. Okay, so this wellness screen share here. So this wellness assessment hits all 8 areas of wellness. So it's a fillable PDF. I like to keep it kind of on my desktop so I can bring it up and work through with clients. And oftentimes they tend to overthink each one of these, but basically the instructions on the wellness assessment is it's kind of holistic, looking at your whole life. We're going to go through each part of the wellness assessment, and I want them just to kind of trust their gut, throw out a number. 1 means I need a lot of work in this area. 10 means I'm perfect, or I'm just really not willing to work on this area in therapy, or right now I just want to put it on the back burner. So I encourage them to kind of just don't not overthink it, and we go through each dimension. So the first dimension is emotional dimension. So a lot of times this is one that clients are wanting to work on. They've come to therapy, right? So this is kind of coping effectively and efficiently with life, creating satisfying relationships, kind of understanding and respecting your feelings, values, and attitudes, feeling positive and enthusiastic about life. I give them some ideas here, and then I just have them select a score here. And then right off the bat, like, okay, if you're feeling this way, you're 1 in emotional dimension, what's kind of right now at the beginning of the school setting process? What's a plan of action? So a lot of times this one, it's, well, I'm in therapy. So we write that down, I'm in therapy. Okay. Or, I really want to be more vulnerable with my loved ones. And so that might be something we just jot down in the first little bit here. Then I like to go over financial dimensions as you're thinking about this, kind of like just starting to rate yourself in some of these areas. Like a lot of people at the beginning of every year think, okay, I'm going to save money this year, or I'm going to create a budget. I'm going to do more that feels good with my money, like giving to charity or getting a financial advisor, or let's have a family meeting every month on finances. So again, scoring yourself here. And then what's the, just a couple things we throw down in here, plan of action. Oh yeah, I really like budget. I'm going to throw that in here. The next one is spiritual. Oops, we missed one. Sorry. Social dimension. This is one that often comes up, especially when we're goal setting for therapy. Is I really like to increase my support network this year. I'm going to reach out to friends more often. I'm going to initiate plans in the social realm more often. So rating yourself higher here as you're just thinking about this, what would you rate yourself? 1 to 10. 1, I need a lot of work in this area. 10, nope, I'm perfect in this area. So thinking like, okay, if you're a 6, what does that mean to you? Do you need to balance more work and home life? Is it joining a club this year? Is it like getting out more and putting yourself out there a little bit more? Is it learning about effective communication strategies? Oftentimes people are coming to therapy like having a lot of fights at home, having a lot of unhealthy conflict. So maybe something, just sticking a pin in some of that stuff here. What's that plan of action look like here? So and you can get specific and with, I'm going to reach out to at least 1 friend per week. Or it could be just general, like I'm just going to sign up by the end of the week for that book club that I've been looking at and kind of putting off. So we put those plan of actions there. The next one, spiritual dimension. A lot of people often struggle with this one. Maybe they aren't religious. A lot of people think religious goes right along with spiritual, but I try to explain that this isn't just about religion. This is really just expanding our sense of purpose and meaning. It could be something as simple as I get my spiritual dimension met in my primary relationship. I get a sense of purpose, meaning, love. I extend myself for the happiness of another, and the vice versa. That person does that for me. I find purpose, value, and meaning in something that's free, like a relationship. Or it maybe for some people it's more in depth, like this is an opportunity for them to go back to, some of their primary values growing up. Like I've had people tell me here, I grew up in a very religious family. It felt really good to have that purpose and meaning. I really want to get back to that. Or something as simple as just creating a safe place to spend some solitude and think about myself and my purpose and meaning once per week, something like that. The 5th dimension, occupational. Like Brandy said, we serve a lot of military and family members of the military. So often this comes up a lot. They're coming because they're transitioning out of the military into a new line of work. There's a lot of anxieties and fears that arise around, do I go back to school? How do I take this 20-year military career? And who am I without that? Who am I without that insignia on my chest, or the military organizational structure? Or they're just, in a job that's satisfying, and maybe this is one that we don't necessarily have to work on, but looking at kind of how do you balance like those future goals, whether that's going back to school, whether that's promoting, and how do I balance work and home time? So again, we have them rate themselves here, and what's the plan of action? So I've been specific before, even when people are very burnt out at work. Like, even talking to a coworker, another therapist, is like, I love what I do, but like, I'm so drained when I get home. I don't have time for my kids and people's emotions, because that's all I talk about when I'm at work. And so this just might be more of like, I'm going to take 5 minutes at the end of each day, reflect about the good I'm doing for my clients, and then leave it there, leave it at work, and, and go home with a renewed, different perspective. So that's occupational. Physical, I play, side story, I play tennis, and go to the tennis club like twice a week. And it's just so funny at the beginning of the year, like I cannot find anywhere to park at the gym. And I sometimes forget, I pull in the parking lot with just a few minutes where I have to meet friends, and I'm like, oh, I forgot it's a new year. Like the parking lot is packed. So obviously a lot of people are recognizing this is an opportunity of the new year to like reinvigorate some of those old plans. I always like to talk and think about physical activity and physical dimension as like, what are you training for? I used to be an athlete. I was a swimmer, and I was always training for something, whether it's a meet or a certain time I wanted to get on something. But I'm an adult now. Like I'm not training for an event. I'm not, going to Junior Olympics or whatever. So what am I training for? And this is oftentimes when people come into therapy, or I'm talking to a friend about physical activity, I just ask them, what are you training for? And they're like, what? And I like to think of like, I'm training for being old, and I am kind of old. I'm 46, and like, but I see my mom, and she's 76, and she was a PE teacher, like I mentioned, but like she struggles to get on the floor with her grandkids and get up off the floor. And I'm like, okay, I'm training for that, right? I'm training to be able to get on the floor when I'm 76. And does that mean that I'm killing myself and sacrificing other parts of my body so that I'm going to the gym every single day? No, it's, trying to find that balance. I can have that, remember that dialectic thinking, like I can be training for flexibility, mobility in my 70s, but at the same time, not go to the gym every day. Where is that sweet spot for me, and what is realistic with my life? So again, thinking, what's some short-term plan of action stuff in the physical realm? Is it just that I'm going to take more snack breaks, snack exercise breaks, right? Take plenty of snack breaks, but where I'm going to set a timer on my phone every hour and just stand up from my desk and do 1 to 2 minutes of exercise, jumping jacks, wall sits. It doesn't mean I have to carve out time away from my family to go to the gym for an hour every day, but some small, short-term kind of like, what can I do today? I'm making agreements with myself. Like, I'm not going to take the escalator no matter what. I'm going to take the stairs. No matter how heavy my bag is at the airport, I'm going to take the stairs. Just making little, I don't know, little tricks, little deals with yourself. And so we can oftentimes just write down, just thinking about for yourself, what works for you, because it is cumulative, right? Maybe this is sleep, right? Maybe this is, my daughter got me an Aura ring for Christmas. And so like, it's been pretty neat this last month looking at my sleep, like how much restorative sleep am I actually getting? Like, how long is it taking me to fall asleep? And just, those types of things. Whether this is sleep hygiene, things like that. Two more, intellectual dimension. So this is one that people often don't think about, but I think this speaks to purpose and meaning. Like for some reason, and be wrong, and someone could have certainly a different opinion than me, but it's like we all as humans want to be productive. And what does productive mean? Does it mean that I built a house? Does it mean that I raised children? Does it mean that I gave back to the community? Does it mean that I picked up trash in the parking lot on my way to the car or back from the car to the store? But like that purpose, and I think some purpose when people don't see it in their job and maybe their support network is lacking right now, like there can be ways to find purpose in the intellectual dimension. Maybe that just means, finding ways to expand knowledge and skills, right? Developing, maybe it's going back and taking one class, or it's silly, but our mind kind of needs this constant intellectual challenge, right? Maybe it means I'm going to do the New York Times Wordle every single day. But this is one that we often forget that, it seems like we're drawn to like learning more things. Maybe I don't encourage my clients to like get obsessed with politics right now or feel like they're learning something new on social media, maybe pulling back from the world's atrocities and like what can you focus on learning this year, right? Maybe it's challenging yourself to read a new book every month, or learn to play the guitar like you've always wanted to. What does that look like short term? Maybe that means signing up for music lessons. Maybe that just means buying a guitar and setting in the living room and doing 10 minutes every other day or something like that. But this is one I think people often overlook. And then finally, another one I think people really overlook is how impactful your environment can be on you. And especially that this time in the winter in Alaska, people are coming in and just like railing against the weather in Alaska. Like, I hate this place. Why do I live here? Like, but we joke and we laugh that off. But if being here in Alaska or whatever is making your mental health so unhealthy, that you need to think about long-term goals of moving, or the opposite, like it being this is where your family is, and just kind of reframing some of those thoughts, and maybe being working hard to find happiness, or yes, both things can be true at the same time, that Alaska's weather is terrible and difficult sometimes, but there's a lot of great things about living here that maybe you won't find. The grass maybe won't be greener on the other side. So looking at what is your environment, how is it playing into your physical, your mental, your emotional health, your family, your occupational, and all that. This could be as simple as, I often ask people to look at environment. Is your house and your home comfortable for you? Are there little changes that you can make in your environment to make it feel like you're safe and you're secure, even though, it's snowed 4 feet, or even though it's minus 20 degrees? Like, maybe it's even participating in a community garden, or those types of things. But what is your environment like, and how much is it affecting you, or how much can you change your perspective on it? Okay, so that's generally the wellness assessment, and I like to give this to folks after we're done completing it. Email it, and we use it to create SMART goals for treatment planning, as well as just generally, like, it's not a bad idea to look over this every year and be like, where are my lowest scores? So then after this, I typically have them pick, or we pick together the top 3 with their lowest scores, or the top 3 that they really want to work on, that they think will be the most impactful to their mental health or to their general health. And then we kind of will start there with like developing some goals around those things. But that's the wellness assessment. I think it's one of the most, the best ones that I've found. And I like how it's fillable and emailable and things like that. Okay, so then after that, we move on. We've got our values. Maybe we have some goals they're coming into treatment with, but I kind of tend to put those on the back burner for a little bit. And like, we focus on values. What are your top 5 values? What is your wellness assessment telling us about the top 3 areas, or maybe 4 areas that you really want to work on? And then I ask people to start thinking about a personal mission statement. And I think about mission statement is like if you've ever worked at a nonprofit or you've worked for a company that has like training about values of the company and mission, I think this is more important than we realize in our personal life. And I really encourage people to think of their lives as an organization or a nonprofit or, a business, because there's going to be a lot of things coming at us, like go to the movies with me, and the kids want to go do this, and husband wants to go on a vacation, and my coworker wants me to take a promotion, and oh my gosh, look at this, look at my shopping cart on Amazon, it's full, but then I've got these pressures of finances, right? So these things are going to be coming at you all the time in life's, right? And so if we have a mission statement that we can go back to, it's like having a board of directors. And then we can say, like, does this ask meet our mission? And so just looking at it, I've been on a lot of nonprofit boards and still am. And oftentimes people come to us with great things, these programs that they want to do. And we're very inspired, like as the board of directors, we're very inspired by these asks. But we have to go back and literally read out loud our mission statement each time and then ask ourselves, does this meet our mission? And even if it's the best ask in the world, it's going to do a lot of good in the world, we might refer them to another organization or to somewhere else that meets that mission. But if it doesn't meet our mission, what good is our mission if we're giving out all of our money to other things that don't meet our mission? So it's the same in our own lives, right? We can go back to this mission and be like, okay, I will be generous with my time and family. These are just some examples I pulled off the internet, but I will be generous with my time, both with family and strangers. I'm going to spend quality time. I'm going to pass on love. I'm going to commit to my career, right? And so if something comes into your ask, right? Like something in your life happens, and I'm like, oh, that's really off base with what my mission says. And so we can say no to things. We can respectfully decline invitations for things that don't meet our mission. And this mission can change. And maybe this is just the mission. You have a 5-year plan at work, or you have a family planning plan with your family or something like that. But it's important to have something to come back to. So I think it's on, this next slide. So oftentimes what I will do is either work through this with clients or with myself once a year or so is Franklin Covey does a great online mission builder for a personal mission statement. So actually I will just put that in the chat real quick as well. You can search Franklin Covey mission statements. This is a long link, but I will put it in the chat. And it will walk you through each of a lot of questions. And let me go back to share. One of my favorite questions from this Franklin Covey mission builder is this one. I have this, is this one. It's imagine it's your 80th birthday. And whether you like it or not, your family's having a celebration for you. And then kind of asking these questions, who will be there with you? Who are the most important people in your life that you want on your 80th birthday celebration? And oftentimes clients or friends, or I think like, well, I want my husband to be there. I want my kids to be there. I want my grandkids to be there. I don't know if my parents are going to be there, but maybe aunts, uncles, maybe some best friends, who will be there with you? What will they say about your life? So this is getting us to kind of think about like, well, I hope they say that I was this. I hope they say that I was hardworking and giving and loving, right? And then how will they describe your character? Like, and those are typically the things I hear, like that I was always there to offer a helping hand. I did whatever I could to help. I was, a lot of times this goes back to our values. I was a person of integrity. I was a person that was trustworthy, right? We hear it all the time, but often people when they're aging, they're not thinking about, man, I really wish I would have bought that Lamborghini, but they're thinking like, I wish I would have spent more quality time with my kids or my more quality time with my loved ones, things like that. So these questions on this mission statement builder usually gets you to refine kind of the things that are important to you into a final mission statement. Oftentimes, if I'm in therapy with someone, we don't often get done with this whole thing, the mission statement. So I'll often just send them that link and say, work on this over this next week. This is kind of homework. And then I want to see your final version of your mission statement. And this is not something you're getting tattooed on your body, right? This is something that can change and ebb and flow as life continues to throw curveballs at us. But coming up with that personal mission statement is a great way to create goals. And then I often challenge people to select some board of directors, like we were talking about earlier. Having a mission, our lives should be run like organizations. Who are the people in your life that you can bounce these ideas off of, that you can see if you're missing something or get a different view of, right? So friends, family, maybe it's coworkers, but I think one of the most important board of directors that we can have on any board, even our own personal life or in an organization, is someone that we actually assign as like kind of devil's advocate, because we often get into this silo, like people, we surround ourselves with people that are like us. We surround ourselves at people that are kind and they don't want to really rock the boat, but asking someone to like really be the devil's advocate, like really challenge us on our ideas in a kind and loving way, so that we don't get that kind of confirmation bias about our ideas, our mission, our values, our goals. Like in pushing us to see that, like, okay, maybe that's an important value, but I see that right now what's showing up in your life is kind of the opposite of that. Is that dialectic thinking or is that cognitive dissonance, right? And so having that discussion with people that you trust can be really helpful for you to narrow in on your mission, your goals. All right. And so I love this. And, I can say that I probably use, this is the Karpman drama triangle. And I use this a lot in therapy. And so when you're selecting those people in your life to kind of be in your inner circle and to challenge you for your goals, thinking about who those people are and how you can interact with them. And this is even happening in our own head sometimes. So I want just to bring your attention to this bottom triangle. This is the drama triangle. And probably many of you use this with your friends or yourself, with in your own head with clients in therapy. But we can be the kind of the bully, the rescuer, and the victim kind of all in our own head sometimes. So I didn't do my exercises today, so now I'm gonna be the persecutor and be like, you're piece of crap, you're lazy, you're this, you're that, right? And immediately it's like taking the wind out of our sails. Feel like a victim, like of our own goals, right? And then maybe I get over it and I eat a snack or I scroll on my phone or something, and then I'm like, nope, you can do this tomorrow. You'll be fine. And now you're the rescuer, right? And so we can be in this kind of anxiety-based, problem-focused triangle, and we can never really achieve what we're looking to do with ourselves in our own head or with our friends. If you notice there's people in your life that are, like tearing you down, like are kind of getting in that role of persecutor or bully, right? Thinking about how we can encourage that person to change that role. Or that rescuer, people who are like, nope, you're fine, it'll be fine. Like we want to instead flip this triangle on its head. And we call that kind of the empowerment, Karpman drama triangle, we call that kind of the empowerment dynamic. So instead of being a bully to yourself and being mean to yourself as you didn't meet your goals, no, like using those challenging questions, that motivational interviewing, like, is there something different you could do tomorrow that might hold you more accountable to your goals and your mission, right? What are some of those things? What's a pros and cons list? What's a schedule that might work for you? That's kind of in harmony with that overachiever side of us and that lazy, energy conserving side of us. Like, how can we have those two sides of us in harmony, challenge ourselves um, rather than, persecuting and bullying ourselves. And then on this rescuer side, if you're noticing there's people in your life or people on your team or on your board of directors that are like constantly rescuing you, like, no, it's okay. Like we're good if we just sit around and never worry about our health and like we're fine, right? And they're just keeping you back from some of your goals and you're maybe that having a discussion with that person or in your own head of like, how can I not rescue myself, but be more of a coach? Surround myself with people who are more of like a coach. And again, this can be therapy, right? Coming to therapy and hopefully your therapist is not persecuting you and rescuing you. Instead, they're challenging you and coaching you. Because if we have challengers and coaches in our lives, we become the unique creators of our lives. And that feels really good. That is passion based, outcome focused, right? So it doesn't feel like we're a victim of the world. We're focusing on what we can control and having these people around us. So when you're selecting your board of directors, really, really trying to find people who are not just going to be mean and bully and whatever or rescue, but instead really challenge you and really kind of coach you so that you can decide what you're going to do in life. So, kind of wrapping up here, since it's kind of hard to have a discussion in these formats, like I hope you can kind of take away some of these tools. And maybe a goal today is just I'm going to sit down for 20 minutes this week and figure out what are my top 5 goals. Maybe next week I'm going to do a wellness assessment, or I'm going to use some of these tools with clients, with friends, with coworkers. But um, the whole point of this is not to create New Year's resolutions like, I'm going to have abs by June, right? But instead, and it's not about having abs, it's about being able to see them, right? Like, but aiming your ship, right? What direction? And that's what mission does. It just aims the ship, right? We can't take this cruise ship and, turn the wheel 90 degrees necessarily, because everybody would be seasick and things would be falling over and it would just upset the apple cart. But instead, pointing it a couple degrees in the right direction, um, and so that we can maybe it's 1 year, maybe it's 5 years, but we're following our values, we're avoiding that cognitive dissonance, and we're aligned with our behaviors, and likely we're going to have a lot less, uncomfortable emotions like anxiety, low mood, and things like that. This is it's a process. It's not like a lobotomy, right? So just where are we aiming that ship? So challenging you guys and everyone here to kind of think about, you know, what is kind of your mission, what are your goals, and how can you make small changes to support those, and who can you put in your life that holds you accountable or challenges you, maybe an accountability buddy, on some of these changes. So I apologize, looking at the chat, but if I know that Brandy monitors that, if there's anything that I can um, clarify or any of that, I'd be happy to do so. But that's the material for today.
Thanks so much, Angie. Awesome, awesome, good stuff. If anyone has any questions, feel free to go ahead and drop in this chat. I do have an email coming out. If anyone else wants the email with the wellness assessment, some people had some difficulty downloading it. I can go ahead and send that out if you want to drop your email in the chat or you want to private message me that. I'm happy to send that to you or anyone else that wants it. You will also get an email tomorrow that just has a little QR code or a link to do a quick survey. The best way for us to continue to grow the program is, having your feedback, letting us know, was this what you were looking for? Is there other subjects that might be helpful for you? So it's a quick one if you don't mind doing that. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. But we'll leave this open just for another minute or two to see if anyone has any questions, comments, thoughts they wanted to chat about. Awesome. I got you, Linda, on the email chain already. Angie, yes, actually, they We have been putting most of them on the YouTube. I think there's a couple more I still need to update on there, but they are continuously coming out on the YouTube. There's a few that we've missed that the recording didn't auto record as it was supposed to because technology is, technology sometimes, but there are several already up there. Feel free to jump back and watch those. Angie, as a matter of fact, has an amazing one on there that she did a few weeks ago. It's worth checking out. Awesome. All right, I will get that out to you. Anyone else that wants it? The YouTube channel, it's under Alaska Behavioral Health. That link will also be out in the email that what comes out to you the day after that has the survey link in it. It should also have the YouTube link in there as well. Let me see if I can grab it, or I'll put the YouTube link in the email as well if you would like. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. I have sent it to the first couple requesting the forms, and I'll get it out to the last couple that have asked. And Glenda, thank you for sharing that with us. I'm so glad that you were able to join us and have a smile for the day. We are here should you need any other support or anything to continue some care or anything that you might be interested in, just reach out, let us know. If anyone has any questions that randomly pop up, feel free to send them to my email. Again, that was included in the Zoom emails, and I will make sure those get to Angie so that they can be answered. But other than that, y'all have a great day, and we hope to see you next week.
Thank you guys. Bye.